Hey, what's up, friends? Moses here from Driver Success. I hope you guys are doing well. So we are continuing with the backing up series, and today we just want to build on the two videos that we've already discussed before. The first video, we said that when we come into tracking, the first thing that we learn is to back up into a straight line and learning to control the trailer as it moves to one side, learning to take it back to the opposite side. And then in the last video, I introduced to you the concept of looking at tires as a straight line, so that as you back it in, you are looking at those tires to be parallel to the line or the spot where you want to back in. Today we want to talk about, I'm going to talk about setting up. But before I do talk about setting up, I just want to go back to the previous video and show you something concerning that video that will help us get into the setting up. So I have the track ready, I have the board ready. Let's go ahead and work on that. Okay, so in the last video what we said is that as we back up our trailer, what we want to focus on is this set of tires right here, the trailer tires, and we want to look at them as a line. And as we back up, if we look at them as a line, what we want is to bring that line to be parallel to this line here. And so we bring that to come and get in here like this, because at the end of the day we want this line to be parallel to this line. If this line is parallel to that line, that means that trailer, of course, is parallel to that line. Now the thing I wanted to touch on before we talk about the setting up is that as you bring this line, one of the things that you want to focus on is you don't want to bring this line at this angle. You see where this line is and where this is? You don't want to bring it at this angle, because if you bring it so much at this angle while touching here, that means it's gonna be, you will have to jackknife this thing in so much for you to bring it there. I don't know if that makes sense. So what you want to do is, as you bring it in, you want it to be a little bit away, just a little bit away, not so much away, just a little bit away, so that you are going to go in like this. So you don't want to come in at an angle like this, almost stepping onto the line and then figure out how to get in. What you want is to be a little bit, just a little bit away from this line, so that it comes in like this. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that's something that I wanted to point out, that you want it to be more like, you don't want so much to come in at an angle like this where you're almost touching there, because if there is a trailer here, that means you're so close to the trailer. So you want to be a little, just a little distance away from there, so that it will be easier for you to come in like this. I hope that makes sense. That's something I wanted to touch on before I get into the setting up. So when it comes to setup, really, it matters where there are a couple of things that matter. The first one is going to do with the kind of space that you have to deal with, because if it's a small space, that means your setup is going to be different from if the space was large enough. But there are two types of setups I'm going to talk about. Let's first talk about where you have straight lines. The other setup I'll talk about is where you have angled parkings, because for example, some of the rails out there for us who work intermodal, they have angled parking spaces, and you could also go to a customer where their spaces are at an angle. The way I personally come in when the spaces are straight is different from how I set up when the spaces are at an angle. But assuming that everything is good, you have at least adequate space, the way I set up for this kind of parking is, when I'm coming in, I come in as close as possible to the parking space, or even if they have trucks, I come in as close as possible to the line or the truck. Say for example, if this was a truck right here, I'll still be as close as possible not very close, but as close as possible. And when I come in, I'm coming in, of course, the first thing I want to do is to look at the whole entire parking space, because I want to know, especially as I come in, I want to know what is on this side, because as I back up, I won't be looking at this side. I won't be able to see this side until I'm in a position to do so. So it's very, very important to know what is in this place. For example, is there a trailer here? How is that trailer parked? Because sometimes some people will park trailers and they are crooked. So you want to know, how is the trailer parked? And whoever parked the trailer, did he park it so close to this line? Did he give it enough space? Is there any trailer? Is there any anything I need to be worried about, or do I have enough space? I want to know what is this side outside of my space. The other thing I want to know is, I want to know the kind of space I have, because some of the spaces that customers have are really big. Some of them are so tiny that only a trailer is gonna fit, and you hardly almost have any space on this side and on this side. So I want to know what kind of space I'm dealing with, because as I said in the last video, even I'm gonna bring my trailer, I'm gonna keep it as much as possible to this side, so that I know I have enough space this side. But some of the spaces that some of the customers have are so tiny that you even want to put this, when you come into backup, you want it to almost be on that line, right? Because of the tightness of the spot. So as I come in, first thing, I'm coming in so close, okay? I'm coming in so close. Second thing, I'm looking to see what is this side, how much space am I going to have this side. And of course, I'm looking also all over the place to see what obstructions I may have this side. I'm looking all this place. So I'm going to come in and I'm looking at my space. And then when I reach here, this space, of course, now I know what's happening. I'm looking to see what kind of space I have this side, because this space here is going to matter a lot as I come in. So I'm looking to see, are there any obstacles I need to be aware of at the back right here? Are there any obstacles? I don't know if you've seen some of the spaces, there may be a light or a tree here. So if you didn't see that and you come in, you could easily hit that light or tree or pole or whatever. So you want to almost know everything that is around this space and in front here, because as you back up, again, when you start to back up, you may not be able to see this space. So you want to know everything that is around here. So when I come in and my drive tires kind of hit somewhere here, I'm gonna start turning. So as I come in, now it's kind of a natural thing that you kind of even don't worry about it. But as I come in and as my drives start to hit this line here, I start to turn. I'm gonna turn this side and start going away. But again, as I said, it's gonna depend on what space I have ahead of it. But in this case, I'm just assuming you have adequate space. I'm gonna turn and start heading away, right? As soon as I kind of hit that angle like that, I'm gonna now again turn again and start going this side. So it's almost like I come in and then I'm gonna go at the 12. If you look at the clock, like the watch, when I come in here and my drives kind of hit this line, I'm gonna turn as if I'm going to the 12 o'clock. When I hit right there, I'm gonna turn again. When I turn like this and my truck hits the 12 o'clock, I'm gonna start to turn, and I want my truck now to go and hit the 9 o'clock. By the time that is done, my trailer is kind of like that, and that is going to give me this space that I talked about to begin with. I'm gonna have adequate space. So right now, after I've made that kind of maneuver, my trailer shouldn't be here. By the time I've made that, like I come in, as my drives hit here, I'm turning. And then as I hit the 12 o'clock, I turn. When I hit the 9, I'm stopping there. And my trailer should be somewhere kind of like that. So it will have enough space in that now the only thing I'm left to do is to slowly, again, here the idea is to be slow and to always watch everywhere. So I'm now going to start applying what we learned in video number 2, where we talked about the line. The first thing I'm looking at is I'm looking at this line and trying to imagine, okay, this line is going to come like this, and I want it to come like this. All right. Now I'm also remembering what I saw here. If I saw that this place right here is small, I need to be so much on this side, I'm turning that wheel so that this line can start shifting to come like this. So I'm turning that wheel based on what I saw here. If I have enough space, then I know I don't have to worry so much about it. I'm going to leave it to come like this. So that's the difference. That's why when I'm coming in, I'm really taking inventory of what is around here and what is here, because that's going to determine how I turn my steering wheel. Do I need to turn it so hard so that I can come closer by here, or am I fine that I need to just take it slow and come in like this? Because if I come in like this slowly and I have enough space here and I don't have to worry about it, chances are I may even just come in without even pulling forward and just back it up. But if I know this place is tiny, then I want to turn that wheel so much so that it puts me as close as possible, or even on the line, depending on how the space is here. And the other thing, again, as I said, never forget to watch this space. Again, depending on how the space was, never forget to watch this space, because as you come in right here, if you forget to watch that space and there's something, as you turn this truck to get underneath the trailer, you may hit that thing, or you may close the space that you need. So that's why you need to be very careful when doing that. So again, let me just recap that. When I'm coming in and I'm watching this space to see how much space I'm going to have, because this is going to be my blind spot. And as I come in, I'm coming in as close as possible right here. When my drive tires hit this place right here on this line, the one that I'm going to use to come in, I'm going to start turning. When my truck gets to the 12 o'clock, I'm like that, I'm going to start turning. And when my truck gets to the 9 o'clock, I'm going to look back, and I should be something like that. At that time, when I'm like that, I'm going to start turning. If you remember the first video, we talked about the pivot point. What I want is, first thing, I want to make sure that this point right here, the end of my trailer, is really, when I kind of gauge it, it's going to end up in here. The other thing I'm looking at is this line that we talked about, and I'm turning that steering wheel based on where I want the back of this to go, not based on where I want the trailer, not based on the trailer moving like this, but based on the trailer moving like this. So when I'm like this, I want this slowly to come in, and as I come in, I want this trailer to move this side, this side, this side, because I'm going by the back of the trailer. So because I want this trailer to start to come in, I'm coming in very slow, watching every part, and I'm turning and I'm turning. The way I'm turning is I'm turning my steering wheel that side because I want this trailer to come this side. So I'm turning like that. And if I get somewhere where I need to pull up, then the other thing I should mention at this point, depending on what space you have, if you ever want to pull up, be careful not to try and pull. If you're like this, don't try to pull this side, because you're going to end up like that. So if you are ever like this and you want to kind of get things together, my advice is pull up the other side where you're coming from, like this, because you want this trailer to go like this, to follow you. If you pull, because one of the things I've seen drivers do, they get somewhere here and they're like, they want this, they're thinking if they pull this side, the trailer is going to go like this, but it ends up doing this. And the next thing you know, they're in a situation where now this has become the blind spot. So you want to avoid that. Anytime you are in a situation where you need to pull up, be careful not to pull up like this, because you may end up like that. What you always want to do is to pull up, remembering that you want this side to be the side you see. So always, if you have to pull up like this, that side, so that you can back up again looking at this side. If you decide to pull up this side, you may end up in that situation. I've seen many new drivers do that mistake, where now this side they're supposed to watch becomes the blind spot. And this is a very, very dangerous place to be in, because now the side where you are at has become a blind spot, which means now you are doing a back, what do they call it? Blind side backing, which is very difficult, especially if you are driving a sleeper truck. So anytime you need to pull up, as much as possible, try to pull up on the side, on this side, not the other side, unless you are in a situation where you are going to do the serpentine. But again, after you do the serpentine, you want to end up like that, so that you are in a position where you are seeing this side. Never, as much as possible, try not to lose sight of this side. This is the side you always want to be watching. So that is the first backup. Now, when we talk about the other backup, which is at angled space, the difference, everything is almost the same. The only difference here is gonna be the setup that personally, the setup I use. So if I'm at an angle like this, let me try and do this again. Let me. So if I'm at an angle like this, the difference between the way I come in on the one that is straight and this one is, you remember how I told you that on the other one I come in as close as possible to the space or to the tracks, whatever is here, I come in as close as possible. The difference with this one is I'm gonna come in just some distance away, maybe like let me say like 5 feet away from this space. Because this is already at an angle, when I do what I told you to do, it's gonna kind of bring my trailer, if I was to come in close, it will cause my trailer to end up very close here. What I told you when I was beginning this video, what I don't want. I want it to be a little distance away. So because this is already at an angle, I compensate for that by coming in a little away from the space or from the truck or from the trailers. About, I want to say about 5 feet maybe away. I don't come in as close. You remember the straight one, I said I come in as close as possible. For this one, I want to be about 5 feet away. And also, now this one, honestly, I just kind of do by experience. But what I want is to be about, let me do it like this. With this one, the way I come and I'm going to pass it. I'm not going to follow what I followed with the straight lines where my drives are at this line. I'm going to move maybe like, if, say for example, if you had more spaces here, I'm going to probably start turning here when I'm at like kind of getting at the third space or fourth space. That's when I start to turn, and I don't mind so much. I'm not minding so much about doing the 12 and 9 o'clock. It's almost like what I told you in the first video, that what you want is to get used to how long this trailer is and kind of getting it in your mind how it's moving. But for this one, I'm sorry this is gonna be confusing because I've never really taken the science into it. But I'm gonna be about 5 feet away, and when I pull up, I'm gonna go maybe around like that's the third space or second space, somewhere around the end of the second and third. That's when I'm gonna turn. And as soon as I turn, I don't wait very long, and then I turn. Okay, it's almost like again the 12 and 9, but because I do it in the rail, we don't have that much space to do that 12 and 9. That's why I think I kind of it's kind of like by experience, and then that will put me in a place where I'm like that. Because with this again, if you guys can really understand the concept I shared with you in the second video, that is, to me, it's kind of like very, very, very important. Because again, you are looking at this line and bringing it now, like for example in the rail, guys park really, really bad. That's why it's very important as you come in to see how much space you have. Guys park at an angle, sometimes they will get into the space, so you want to know if you can even get into the space. But again, now I'm utilizing the same concept of looking at these tires, but remember now this isn't straight, it's kind of at an angle. So the way you are going to turn this to put it into an angle is different than how you're going to put it straight, because it's already at an angle. So you're coming in like this, and I'm just always watching this time. As long as this time I'm trying to make it as parallel as possible to this thing is not so much angled. As long as I'm trying to make it as much as possible to that angle, like when I'm coming in, that is what matters. You want to turn it and get in. Now, if you are at the rail and you have these angled spaces, and you know there are other trailers on the other side with angled spaces, one of the most important thing you cannot forget is the front. Because if you look this side and you forget the front here, I've seen trucks like where the bumper has been taken off because they washed so much that the behind, they forgot the front. Because those other trailers are also at an angle, it's very easy for you to hook as you turn to get this this bumper into one of those angled trailers or containers. So as you come in as slow as possible, but as you watch this line to make sure that you're getting in, also watch the front here. This is a very, very dangerous place in the rails because of the angled spaces. So that is very important to watch. Again, to recap, you come in about 5 feet away, and when you get to around maybe like the third, at the end of the second, or like when you get at the third space, you want to go out, watch to see, and then straighten up, and you should be at a certain angle. But as you come in, watch the front side here, because that is a very, very dangerous place. Especially I'm talking about this in regards to the rail, because they have other trailers now that are angled. It's very easy, if you don't watch your front, to hit the truck in the front right here. So that is something that you should keep in mind. So I hope that gives you an idea of how to set up. But again, the other thing I wanted to emphasize is when you are coming in to back up, always leave yourself a little bit of space. Don't come in at, if you're coming in, don't bring your trailer so close at an angle. You want it to be a little far, so that you come in more like this instead of coming in like this, like at that angle. You want it to have some space, so that it gives you that liberty of slowly turning it like this, and then you can pull up and get in. Instead of, if you come in like this at an angle, you'll be like this, and you almost have to jackknife it in for it to straighten up. That's why you need some space here, so that it's a smooth coming in. If you get so close here, it will mean that you will have to jackknife. If this is the trailer, if this was a trailer right here and you are close like that, you have to jackknife this thing in like this, which can be so difficult depending on what space you have there. So the best thing to do is when you set up, you want to have some space so that you come in like this. I hope that helps you guys. Until next time, stay blessed and stay safe. Bye bye.